I'm here with author Tony Lindsay, who's making history as an accomplished African American author. He is celebrating having now released 17 novels with his new title, What If I Don't? How are you doing today?
I'm good, Ryan. How about yourself?
I'm excellent. Thank you so much for taking the time. Can you tell me a little bit about how you got started as an author?
Um, for reading, I used to like to read mysteries as a kid, mysteries, not always mysteries. I read a little Donald Goines, different topics, different things. And I was fortunate. We grew up in Chicago, lived in Chicago, and we met Gwendolyn Brooks at a young age, and she was an example of a writer. Also, Hakeem Adabudi, Sterling Plump. I was fortunate enough to have examples of writers. So that's pretty much how it happened. And I was always encouraged. Fortunately, people in my circle encouraged me to continue writing and to continue trying.
That's incredible. I'm also from Chicago, and
Okay.
you mentioned Gwendolyn Brooks. She's the first African American woman to receive the Pulitzer Prize. What was it like, having someone like that as a mentor?
Well, I wouldn't say she wasn't a mentor. She was there though. It was good. It was because you saw what you wanted to be in the flesh. You saw somebody who had achieved accolades in the flesh. So that was always good. And again, being from Chicago, we are gifted to see people and know people, and there's always events going on, things that people are doing. So I was very fortunate. I consider myself very fortunate.
Was some of your first works, did you start off like writing short stories, or did you jump into writing novels right away?
Oh no, I was writing short stories as a kid. I remember writing scary books, scary stories around Halloween. Um, and as my mother would say, I was always a fabricator, always a storyteller, So no, I definitely started with short stories. Didn't know quite that they were short stories at the time, just writing scenes and events. Later on in school, I got the mechanics of what a short story was as far as climax and rise and action and all of that. That came later. But as a kid, I just wanted to write about what I was thinking, you know. So it worked out pretty good, and people always wanted to read it, so that was good.
Your new book, What If I Don't? It's a mystery thriller based in Chicago about three siblings. They're all therapists who open a community mental health center. Can you talk a little bit about it? And what was the
Sure,
inspiration?
sure. Okay. The inspiration was my daughters and wife have an organization, a social service organization called Butterfly Dreams. And that was in the back of my mind a little bit. But it was basically seeing the need. There was a time in the community where there were a lot of mental health facilities. That time has faded, but the need is still there. So I kind of wanted to have that in the book. Them being siblings came about from, looking at my wife and daughters working together. So that came from that. And I wanted to have a good murder mystery. Generally, my murder mysteries are always around this one character, David Price. But I wanted to do one outside because I look at what other writers have done, and they don't always have to. You don't always have to stay with the same protagonist. So I wanted to bring in some new protagonists, some new dynamics, more than just one. And I think I did accomplish that with the What If I Don't. So it was me trying to stretch beyond what a mystery or what me as a mystery writer would do. And I wanted to make a comment about the need for mental health facilities. So it's a story of three siblings that start, one gets murdered, and the other two are there trying to figure out who murdered the one. So it's a good murder mystery and a thriller as well.
That's incredible. I love the fact that you've written a number of mystery works, and it seems like that you have this penchant for like horror. You've written stories like that are based on vampires. Do you think this eventually some of your works will make it to the big screen?
Sure, that would be great. I'm not against that at all. That would be fantastic. Um, I've written a couple of screenplays that I've tried to market. Um, I don't write the books with things of being as a film, but I do write them as if they were movies. because visually, when I'm writing, I want to see the scene and I want my reader to see the scene. So if they become a movie, I would be wholeheartedly in favor of it. I would be totally happy. If they don't, I'm still happy because the creation as a novel was completed and it came out. So I'm happy about that as well.
Definitely. I noticed like, looking at your bio that you've gone to like a number of different institutions to study writing and editing. Can you talk about like, the role that academia has played in like uh your career, and do you feel like, how has it helped you?
Okay. It's helped a lot. Um, Prior to going back to school, I was in sales. I sold various products over the phone, face to face. I was in sales, but I was also doing some community writing or community teaching. I was Chicago State has an adult continuing education program, and I was teaching creative writing through that program. One of the professors there, who was Dr. Kelly Ellis, um, we were talking, and she said you should consider going back to school. And at that time, I hadn't finished my bachelor's, so I went back. I finished the bachelor's, and then I got into the MFA program at Chicago State, which is really, really, really good because it exposed me to so many different Black writers. And then from there, I went to Arizona State and got an MA. Now, how it helped me is not only exposure to writers, but the technique and the learning about the era of how writers worked and how writers' lives, how writers lived. All of that was instrumental in shaping me as a writer today. I recommend to anybody definitely seek it out and go to school. I think about how it happened. It was raining, and I helped her pour some windshield wiper fluid in her car to help with the rain and get the wiper started. And she was like, "You should think about going back to school." And it was just a slight conversation, but the seed was planted. And I went back and I've taught. I've been teaching for I graduated in 2010, so I've been teaching for over 14 years now as a college professor, not just as a community person. I've been as an academic. So has it played an important role in my life? Yes. It has allowed me to eat and write. So I would suggest anyone to extend your education if you can.
That's excellent. I think like, education is very important. I also briefly attended Chicago State as a graduate student at large.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed my time there. I think that Chicago has such a rich history, and I was really interested to see that you have written for a number of different publications, one of them being the Chicago Defender, which, has a rich history. It was once considered the most important newspaper of its kind for Black people. Can you
Mhm.
talk about like, writing for Chicago Defender and other publications that you've written for?
Yeah, I wrote for a Defender and Indigo and also Conversations magazine. Man, I was so happy to get the Defender opportunity because it was like I was reviewing books, but I knew at the time when I was doing it, that it was historic for me. So it was just really, really a good. I think I did it for about 2 years. I was doing book reviews for them, and it was online, and it was really, really, really good. The same thing with Indigo. Indigo was a biweekly publication, and I did book reviews, but I was a sales manager there before I was a writer too. So I got to do two things at Indigo, be a sales manager and a book reviewer. So book reviews were funny because I never planned on doing it, but the opportunity came and I did it. And I tried my best not to slash or be negative during the reviews. I just wanted to tell the reader what the reviews were about. And that actually developed a style. And I ended up doing reviews for other people all across the country. And that was kind of shocking because it wasn't something I had planned on doing. It came out as a surprise. But I forgot your question, but writing for those publications always, always was prideful for me.
Most definitely. And you answered the question. What's next for you in your career?
I will, I am teaching, still teaching, part-time mostly now. Um, I'm working on another book. It is another vampire piece. And I am gonna market this one, What If I Don't? And I will continue to teach and continue to write. Just maintain the status quo of my life as I can right now.
That's really amazing. Tony Lindsay, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate you.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for having me, man. Talk to you
Of course,
soon.
anytime. I'd love to have you back.
All righty. Have a good one.
You too.